What if it took a blind man to truly open your eyes? I'm Dre, and this is The Midnight Hour. Tonight we will be looking at a short story from writer Raymond Carver called Cathedral. And Cathedral is about a husband and wife duo who are waiting on a friend of the wife's who she hasn't seen in a long time, named Robert. Now, Robert and the wife go way back. She used to read for him because Robert also turns out to be blind. And she used to spend her summers reading to him. And afterward, when the job was over, they would send tapes back and forth throughout the years, just kind of detailing their lives and where they've gotten to and what they've gotten up to. The whole thing about this meeting, though, is that the husband is not too keen on it. He doesn't really feel that comfortable around Robert. Not that he's ever met him before, but I think he's got this chip on his shoulder because Robert is blind, and I don't think the husband really knows how to go about interacting with him or just making sure that he's comfortable. So they're expecting his arrival any moment, and once he does arrive, they have a couple drinks. The three of them have dinner. They have some more drinks afterward. They smoke a little bit, and they start watching TV. Now, the thing about this story is that it has a lot of setup, and the setup is very bland in a way, but not bland in the type of way that it doesn't make you want to keep reading. It just is very simple and touches on this and that, on their dinner and what they're drinking. And once they start watching the TV, there is a report on about cathedrals. The reporter of the program goes into the different types of cathedrals found in Paris, Italy, Portugal, all around the world. Now, this inspires the husband to ask Robert if Robert even knows what a cathedral is, what one looks like. And, Robert says that he doesn't really. And if the husband could explain and describe one to him. Now, the husband has kind of a hard time describing what one really looks like, even though he tries his best to do so. This finally prompts Robert to ask the husband his thoughts on God and whether or not he's a religious person. Now, this is the first real interaction between Robert and the husband. The wife has pretty much passed out on the couch by now. She drank a little bit too much, smoked a little bit too much, so it is just the two gentlemen speaking at length about cathedrals at this point. The husband admits that he doesn't really feel close to any sort of religious idea. He's not that religious at all. And this prompts Robert then to ask the husband to go grab some pens and some thick paper. Now, after the husband does so, the two men sit down and draw a cathedral. Okay, that's what Robert wanted the pens and the paper for. He wants the husband to try to draw a cathedral from what he knows about it. And after the husband starts to draw, he finds that he really can't stop. He draws the windows, the doors, all of the little details he thought that he didn't know about. At that point, Robert even suggests to the husband, close your eyes. Continue drawing, but keep your eyes closed. After the drawing is finished, Robert asks the husband to open his eyes and let him know what he thinks of the drawing. At which point, the husband keeps his eyes closed and replies, "It's really something." Now, that's how the story ends, but we're going to get into it right now and unpack a few sections to see why it is such a cool story. And it's very interesting, and I think it's definitely something worth exploring. Now, the first section that we're going to look into is actually the very first paragraph of the story. And this really introduces the situation and the husband and the wife and Robert himself, even though it never really specifically says his name is Robert in this section. But it goes, "This blind man, an old friend of my wife's, he was on his way to spend the night. His wife had died, so he was visiting the dead wife's relatives in Connecticut. He called my wife from his in-laws. Arrangements were made. He would come by train, a 5-hour trip, and my wife would meet him at the station. She hadn't seen him since she worked for him one summer in Seattle 10 years ago. But she and the blind man had kept in touch. They made tapes and mailed them back and forth. I wasn't enthusiastic about his visit. He was no one I knew, and his being blind bothered me. My idea of blindness came from the movies. In the movies, the blind moved slowly and never laughed. Sometimes they were led by seeing eye dogs. A blind man in my house was not something I looked forward to." So right off the bat, we see that the husband is a little annoyed at Robert's visit, and we even get a glimpse into his possible jealousy of Robert's relationship with his wife. I'm not sure exactly how close or distant the husband and wife are in their marriage, but it seems like Robert and the wife are on a more intimate level than the husband and wife are in many aspects, because they mail tapes back and forth and because they've known each other for such longer periods. Now, the second section we're going to look at is when the husband is explaining his thoughts on cathedrals to Robert, and Robert finally asking the husband his thoughts on religion. And it goes, "He stopped nodding and leaned forward on the edge of the sofa. As he listened to me, he was running his fingers through his beard. I wasn't getting through to him. I could see that. But he waited for me to go on just the same. He nodded, like he was trying to encourage me. I tried to think what else to say. 'They're really big,' I said. 'They're massive. They're built of stone. Marble, too, sometimes. In those olden days, when they built cathedrals, men wanted to be close to God. In those olden days, God was an important part of everyone's life. You could tell this from their cathedral building.' 'I'm sorry,' I said, 'but it looks like that's the best I can do for you. I'm just no good at it.' 'That's all right, bub,' the blind man said. 'Hey, listen, I hope you don't mind my asking you. Can I ask you something? Let me ask you a simple question, yes or no. I'm just curious, and there's no offense. You're my host. But let me ask you if you are in any way religious. You don't mind my asking?' I shook my head. He couldn't see that, though. A wink is the same as a nod to a blind man. I guess I don't believe in it. In anything. Sometimes it's hard. You know what I'm saying?" "Sure, I do," he said. "Right," I said. So that's the first real interaction between Robert and the husband. And that interaction in itself tells Robert more about the husband than anything has so far. And I feel like that is their bridge into a deeper conversation that they will eventually have later on. And obviously, even past what this story says, I'm sure they will have that experience of drawing a cathedral to reflect on, maybe for the rest of the night, maybe for the morning after, but whatever follows this story in these people's lives, I'm sure this night will have a lasting impact on them. Now, the final section we're going to read is actually the last page and a half of the story, and it is when they start to draw the cathedral, and let's just go right into it. It says, "He found my hand, the hand with the pen. He closed his hand over my hand. 'Go ahead, bub, draw,' he said. 'Draw. You'll see. I'll follow along with you. It'll be okay. Just begin now like I'm telling you. You'll see. Draw,' the blind man said. So I began. First, I drew a box that looked like a house. It could have been the house I lived in. Then I put a roof on it. At either end of the roof, I drew spires. Crazy. Swell, he said. Terrific. You're doing fine, he said. Never thought anything like this could happen in your lifetime, did you, bub? Well, it's a strange life. We all know that. Go on now. Keep it up. I put in windows with arches. I drew flying buttresses. I hung great doors. I couldn't stop. The TV station went off the air. I put down the pen and closed and opened my fingers. The blind man felt around over the paper. He moved the tips of his fingers over the paper, all over what I had drawn, and he nodded. Doing fine, the blind man said. I took up the pen again, and he found my hand. I kept at it. I'm no artist, but I kept drawing just the same. My wife opened up her eyes and gazed at us. She sat up on the sofa, her robe hanging open. She said, "What are you doing? Tell me, I want to know." I didn't answer her. The blind man said, "We're drawing a cathedral. Me and him are working on it." "Press hard," he said to me. "That's right. That's good," he said. "Sure, you got it, bub. I can tell. You didn't think you could, but you can, can't you? You're cooking with gas now. You know what I'm saying? We're going to really have something here in a minute. How's the old arm?" he said. "Put some people in there now. What's a cathedral without people?" My wife said, "What's going on? Robert, what are you doing? What's going on?" "It's all right," he said to her. "Close your eyes now," the blind man said to me. I did it. I closed them just like he said. "Are they closed?" he said. "Don't fudge." "They're closed," I said. "Keep them that way," he said. He said, "Don't stop now. Draw." So we kept on with it. His fingers rode my fingers as my hand went over the paper. It was like nothing else in my life up to now. Then he said, "I think that's it. I think you got it," he said. "Take a look. What do you think?" But I had my eyes closed. I thought I'd keep them that way for a little longer. I thought it was something I ought to do. "Well," he said, "are you looking?" My eyes were still closed. I was in my house. I knew that. But I didn't feel like I was inside anything. "It's really something," I said. So right there, Robert and the husband share such an intimate moment, and it truly shatters all of the husband's prior annoyance. I feel like he's finally letting himself understand Robert and even put himself into Robert's shoes by keeping his eyes closed. And the husband keeps his eyes closed because he realizes that it was about the experience so much more than it was about the drawing itself. He wants to be on this playing field, on this equal playing field with Robert, and not feel like, okay, I have to describe this drawing now, or I have to even approve of it. I just feel like he realizes that he and Robert have shared this moment together, and that is what was really something. Not the drawing, but the experience, the moment, the shared intimacy there. And it really shows a humanity of the husband that we hadn't really seen before. Of course, the husband was very courteous and he was a good host. He kept pouring drinks throughout the night, but that doesn't really make him empathetic to Robert until this moment. And they have this shared understanding that they are both experiencing the same feeling in the same moment. And that's really something special whenever we can do that with other people, especially people we don't think we will be able to relate to. That's the most important part of this, I think, is the husband originally assuming that he and Robert will have nothing in common, nothing to speak about, and come to find out they have drawn a cathedral together on a piece of paper by the end of the night. So that was tonight's story. Like this video if you felt something. Comment with what you thought, and I will see you next Sunday at the Midnight Hour.